All right, welcome to Before Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, an extension of 5 on the Floor. Thanks for finding us on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, get all the latest videos. We are going to be adding more content here, so that is definitely something that you should do. I'm Ethan Skolnick. Let's see who else we've got tonight. Who's behind door number 1? Well, Alejandro Villegas, our producer, right next to me. Ricky J. Mark on the other side of me. Brady Hawk underneath Alejandro. Greg Sylvander next to him. Miami Heat come in at 11-17 on the season. Second night of a back-to-back in Sacramento. I guess no Harrison Barnes tonight. The more players another team is without, the worse it is for the Miami Heat. That is what we've learned. No Draymond Green, loss. No Paul George, loss. No Kawhi Leonard, loss. Thank you, Abdul. That makes us feel better. Can't wait to lose again. Before we get to tonight's game against the Kings, let's fill in a little bit of what's happened today, other than me fighting with people on Twitter about silly tweets. Essentially, I'm hearing, and I did a little bit of reporting today, got my reporting hat back on, that things are close with the Heat. I know people are going to want specifics. I was told there's one deal out there that is close to happening that no one has reported. So as soon as I have that information, I will provide it to you. But I basically heard they're close on a couple of fronts. I know players that we've talked about. Rudy Gay is still in the picture. They're still looking at guards. I know, Greg, you found that as well. So they're looking, okay? So this idea that the Heat, that Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg are asleep at the switch, and then Shane Battier and Alonzo Mourning and Chet Kammerer and Adam Simon and Nick Harrison and Mickey Harrison have just decided that this is good enough, that's a silly notion. They have not decided that. They're looking for trades, but you need 2 or sometimes 3 or sometimes 4 teams to execute a damn trade. Just because you want to trade doesn't mean it's going to happen at that moment. And so, it may not be immediate, but they are looking for help at all those positions. And honestly, if you were to say to me, do I think there'll be a trade within a week? I would lean yes. I think they are going to do something. I don't think they're going to wait for the trade deadline. But I can also tell you, and then I'll go to Greg on this, Jimmy Butler's not pushing them to make a trade right now, okay? That is false information. He's not trying to get out of Miami. I was told today by someone very close to him that he is committed to winning a championship in Miami. There's no plans to leave. And we'll talk about this in another pod. As long as he gets an extension this offseason, he's not going anywhere for a long time. I know that's a topic we haven't really talked about, but that's going to be on the table. So Jimmy's not pushing for a trade right now. And a lot of guys that Heat fans want traded, Jimmy doesn't want traded. So this idea that he wants to shove everybody out the door, in some cases, he's pulled them back, okay?
Correct.
Greg, what do you have? And then we'll get to tonight's debacle.
That I think that Heat fans should that there's something positive to be taken by the fact that Jimmy Butler is committed to this franchise. He wants to go nowhere else. He is committed to staying in Miami, to building a winning team in Miami. So that to me is huge. When you go through these struggles, obviously, I think that there's always going to be whispers about, how does a guy feel about that? How does he feel about a supporting cast, about moves that were made or not made? But ultimately, it sounds like Jimmy is on board, and all that tells me is that they got to get another guy to commit. Who that is, we don't know yet. But I think that there are ways that they can do a soft reset around Bam and Jimmy if it comes to that can lend itself to a quick retool. But also just to hear Jimmy's committed, that in itself is a win for the franchise.
Yeah, he's completely committed. And don't read into this idea that he blew off the media for the second time after the game the other night. He just didn't want to talk to the media. Sometimes he doesn't want to be put in a position to say something that's going to be misconstrued, particularly on a Zoom call. And my understanding was, A, he was not in a good mood, but B, he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to accidentally say something that was going to get taken a certain way. A couple of questions that come in here. When is Goran coming back? I was told before the trip he probably would not be back for the trip, and it may be a little bit longer than that. So be prepared, strap in there. I know people have asked about replacements. I was also told that Isaiah Thomas is not someone that they're pursuing right now unless Goran's out for an extended period of time. So there we go. All right, let's get to tonight, Brady. No Harrison Barnes for Sacramento. They're shorthanded in a couple of other ways. I guess they don't have, Rashawn Holmes either. What do they look like? They took Miami to the wire last time. I feel like everybody does these days, or they blow them out. What do you expect from the Kings?
Yeah, like you mentioned, they're without Harrison Barnes, and Rashawn Holmes is unlikely to play, even though he's trying to right now. And another one is Marvin Bagley is going to be on a minutes restriction, even though he's starting. And Luke Walton was basically saying that everybody's going to play on their roster, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing for Miami, because when guys that you don't know about begin to play against Miami, you find out about them pretty quickly. So I think they're gonna. The biggest thing he was basically saying is they're going to try to stop Jimmy Butler at all costs. And throw everybody that they can at him, because last time they played against Sacramento, Jimmy Butler got to the line at a very, very good rate. So I think it's going to come down to other guys. I think once again, I think the issue is that we're always talking about relying on these other guys. But the other guys are going to have to play their role and step up and hit shots to beat a Kings team early, and not let a team come back if they get an early lead. Just try to not coast. And I think that's a big product of the free throw line, as I'm mentioning, is not only Jimmy but Bam and others need to get to the free throw line, because if once you start settling for outside shots, that's when the lead starts to fade away.
Wait, so those
Wow.
guys in the front court are out. You're telling me that they're going to go very deep in the roster, and Hassan Whiteside is on this roster. Are you guys setting me up for the ultimate, like, bring me to my knees Heat fan moment where I can no longer stand it? This is it. Whiteside eats us alive. Is that what we've come to?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Or Bielisa showcase game.
Oh, wait, Brandon, I owe you a free shirt. DM me, so let me know what that was about. Sometimes I forget. So ship that. Send me a DM at 5 Reasons Sports and explain it. Ricky, let's get to it. I mean, obviously, the Hassan possibility would be the worst of all possibilities. We've seen some Heat seasons teeter before. I've talked a lot about the 11-30 team where they were ready to blow that thing up and just basically tank. And, then they started winning games, and the meeting between Riley and Andy and others never really happened. At what point, I mean, are you past the point? Clippers game, past the point? Last game, past the point? What if it happens tonight? I mean, do you even fly to LA?
Well, I'm at the point right now where Miami has to win in order to prove to me that they're actually going to win. I do believe that they always have a puncher's chance, but as far as I'm concerned, moving forward, they're going to lose a game until they demonstrate that they're going to win it. I mean, last night, pick a game, right? I mean, just look at Miami and Sacramento right now, right? Miami plays a little bit better defense, but they also turn over the ball a lot more. And the Kings have De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. And Buddy Hield sees the guards that are most likely going to be guarding him tonight. My goodness, he's probably driving them to the arena himself. So at this point, Miami's going to have to show me that they can actually get a lead and then keep it until there are 3 zeros on the clock in the fourth quarter.
Do we expect any? I know people are upset at Kelly Olynyk and others. I feel like we kind of rotate who they're most upset at. Since Harkless didn't play in the last game, he doesn't count. So now it's Kelly. Nobody's even calling for KZ anymore. I saw that somebody said, "Do you think KZ's not playing because he'd be involved in trade talks?" I don't think they're doing anything based on that. I really don't. I think everybody has been, discussed other than Jimmy and Bam at one point or another, even if it was another team asking for them. So I don't think that you're keeping guys out because of that.
No, not at all.
Do we expect Brady? McBob is hurt somewhere. Do we expect Brady? Do you think there'll be any changes to the Heat rotation? I mean, no Max Strus in the last game. Has anybody asked Spoelstra about that? Was that a two-way contract thing that you didn't want to? You played Vincent out of him? It was a little weird.
Yeah, it was strange. Nobody asked him about that, but that was what I was going to mention. I think it's pretty clear that Max Strus should jump Vincent in the rotation. I don't think there's anything that he brings that Strus, doesn't bring unless attacking the rim or another ball handler. But right now, I don't think they're very worried about a ball handler because most of the Vincent lineups he's playing with Bam or Butler. So I don't think that's much of an issue. I think it's pretty clear that Strus in his small chances that he's gotten, he's proved himself, and I think he deserves in these minutes that we're seeing that Miami struggles, either shooting or different things like that, he could definitely be utilized.
I mean, I probably jinxed him, but I'd heard Strus was going to play some 4, and then he didn't play at all. I've got to think that has to do with the two-way thing to me, and I haven't been on those streams, but those Zoom calls. But that was a question I was surprised was not asked the other night. So if he doesn't play again tonight, Brady, see if we can get that question in, because I'd be curious. That Stangelang kicked the tires on IT at this point. Again, I did check into that. Isaiah Thomas, is somebody who seems to make it clear he wants to be in Miami, but I've heard they've not really made any overtures to him, and they're not going to do anything at the guard position unless Dragic is out for an even more extended period of time. Let's transition here a little bit, because I can't really talk about this team very much right now. It's one of the reasons I'm going to get on the stream instead of the pod. Let's talk All-Stars here a little bit. Jimmy, I guess the media had him 7th. I think Brady said 5th for the fans. I think Barkley was the only one on the set who had either guy. He had Jimmy. Nobody had Bam, which surprised me. I thought it'd be more likely Bam than Jimmy. I've been talking to people who think they're going to get 2, and I've been talking to people who think they're going to get none. What do we think they're getting here in the All-Star game? I mean, provided, again, that other players don't drop out. What should they get?
I think they get 1. I think that 1 is Bam. Jimmy's had some nice games recently, but you're also talking to the guy who doesn't think Kyrie should start either because of the amount of time he took off compared to what we've seen from some of the other guys, right? So I think Bam will be the one that deserves it. Jimmy is still rounding into form, and quite frankly, if you ask me, I don't think there should even be an All-Star game in Atlanta this season. That's just a disaster waiting to happen. But I guess that's a whole nother story.
I'm with you on that. I mean, Adam Silver was on today and said there won't be any parties there. I mean, give me a break. Come on. To me, the only All-Star starter that it should be Lillard over Doncic in the West, I think. But apparently they were tied in the vote, so it was close enough. Dame's going to get on the team, but you can make an argument for Luka. Obviously, he struggled at times this year, but it's hard to argue with the other 4. I mean, the other 4, it's pretty clear. And Luka was projected as an MVP candidate before the season. I mean, what do you? I mean, Jimmy has the tie-in with. Jimmy wants to make the All-Star team because his shoe contract, I know, has a tie-in where he gets a bunch more money. I think it's worth over $1 million to him if he makes it in. I mean, if you could pick one, Greg, who's more deserving?
At this point, I would have to say Jimmy, and that's just because if you look at the team's record when Jimmy has played, and also recently Jimmy has elevated his level of play, the triple doubles back to back. He's carrying the team. So if he continues to do that up until when the coaches take the vote, I feel like he'll get in based off the fact that they know that he carries the squad. And, the coaches also know what Bam brings. And if all of these teams are like within a game and a half of each other in that seedings there, I wouldn't be surprised if coaches leaned in the Bam Jimmy direction as opposed to some other guys that maybe for this year are higher seeded, but are not necessarily known as better players.
Make sure, by the way, I didn't mention it, sponsored here by Biscayne Bay Brewing. This, of course, is the Pale Ale. I got the IPA here. I got the Marlins Lager. Ask for it at Publix, if you're down here, wherever you are. Also, restaurants, a lot of them do stock it. It's just not on the menu yet, so make sure you ask for Biscayne Bay Brew. This is the official beer of Brady's going to be on the court instead of Duncan. This is the official beer of the 5 Reasons Sports Network and also of the Miami Marlins. Also, follow the Biscayne Bay Brew account. It's one of the better accounts that you'll follow during a game. Here we go. I'm really surprised Ethan's saying we're talking about trading some of this off people's radar. Feels like the Heat fans have tried to trade for everyone at this point. Dean, I'm with you. That's why when I was told this by someone pretty close to the team today, I was like, okay, who the hell have we not mentioned at this point? But this person's been following us and assured me it's somebody we've not talked about. So I'm at a loss. I was just told that I'll be told first. So yeah, I've been told that before, but we'll see. If I get something, I'll get it out there. I mean, the names we've talked about, Barry talked about in his column, Bielitsa, whose per name I think that's the first time I've ever pronounced it correctly.
No, you did it.
All right. I know it's remarkable. Rudy, because I wasn't on the radio today. Rudy Gay, somebody we've talked about quite a bit. I know these are not the names that are going to excite Heat fans, Thad Young, etc. They're still looking at those players. Greg, you said they're looking at guards. Do you have any sense of that? Because we only talk about like the big name guards, right? Like the Oladipos of the world. But I mean, are there other guards who would be upgrades over what they have, or at least defensively?
I mean, I think that they at least explored the idea of Kendrick Nunn for Derrick Rose. I think that was something that was at least like you crossed that, like it came across the desk. I don't know how much you messed with it, but I think that Oklahoma City has a couple guards that could be useful to Miami, and they do have the ability to lift protections from a pick, and so there's potential there for there to be a deal that maybe could be helpful to Miami. So maybe that's a team to watch for, the guards that are on that roster, but it will inevitably be somebody that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I mean, George Hill is the name we have talked about. So that's one guy who doesn't seem to have a lot of value to them, but would have a lot of value to Miami. One other guy, I was a little curious, and Greg, and you guys can jump in on this. I mean, the Nets signed Roberson. I know he was sitting out there for a long time, but if you're talking about another perimeter defender, I know he's never been a good shooter, and he's coming off a whole bunch of injuries. But wouldn't he get playing time down the stretch over some of these guys defensively? I mean, Greg, are you aware they even looked
It's
at
the
him?
shooting. The shooting.
Yeah, I think they have enough one-way guys that we discussed either on either end of the floor that I don't know if that'd be the best way to go.
Yeah, and then if you look at, I mean, Roberson, do we know he has anything left? I mean, he just got signed the other day, so we'll have to see.
He was sitting out there a long time too. That's the other thing. All right, let's focus here before we close. Lonzo Ball is a name that is still out there. I know that we've got a couple guys in the network. Ricky also. Is Marco still suspended?
Free Marco for real, man.
We got a free Marco and Trilly. Marco's still suspended. We're going to try to bring him back on. I guess when you're not on Twitter, it's like you disappear for the world. But the Lonzo Ball thing, I mean, Greg, you've heard. I know you tweeted out this morning. There's someone in the organization who I think I have a pretty good idea. Who's in on Lonzo. We know the Heat liked him before the draft. We know Griff's looking to move him. It doesn't seem to fit with what Stan's doing, and yet he shoot about 38% from three of late. He's been great on catch and shoots, playing off the ball.
Yeah,
it seems like the only real knock against him has been eliminated, which was the shooting. So, I mean, he's a plus ball handler. He's a plus defender. Why wouldn't you go in on him?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that New Orleans is unlikely to pay him, so maybe you do want to get him this, trade deadline if possible. But if he goes into free agency, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be unrestricted free agency, not restricted free agency. So, with the cap space that they have presently, like, whether it's that $22 to $28 million, depending on cap holds and blah, 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 that is enough space to get in the conversation for Lonzo Ball. And you add him as an incremental piece to what you already have and you lose nothing. Obviously you'd have to shuffle the backcourt in ways, but I just think that it's a name to keep an eye on. There are people in the front office that got attached to Lonzo Ball before the 30-11 run took off. Let's just say that. Mm-hmm. And even though there are clutch connections that I know people have tweeted at me that are concerning, there is an underlying inspiration within the organization, at least as I understand it, to mend that as much as possible.
I've heard that a lot, actually. I think the organization has come to the conclusion over the past 2 to 3 years that eventually they're going to have to deal with clutch one way or the other. You can't avoid their players forever. They have since LeBron left. I mean, Norris Cole was a clutch guy too, was he not? Like but they have basically avoided the clutch guys. But that agency is getting too big, frankly. Here's a question from Alex. If you send us money, we'll answer the question. Question: any package without Hero, you can say, oh, they're not getting Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
No way.
That's the core piece for OKC. That and obviously all the draft picks that they've gotten. And here's the thing: Chris makes this point. Lonzo will be good, but we need to give him an extension. They're going to have to get in that game, right? I mean,
you have to lock up your team. Here it comes.
Absolutely,
this is it.
Yeah,
Lonzo would be someone. Yeah, Lonzo would be the kind of player, at least in my opinion, that you'd want to lock up. You're talking about the number 2 pick in the draft, a solid point guard that still has a pretty decent ceiling left. And I'm of the belief that if we can take Kendrick Nunn and make him into all rookie second team player, we can take the 2nd pick in the NBA draft, a point guard with skills that we haven't seen we have seen, but skills that we could easily take and transform into something special. Yeah, of course you locked it up, especially if there's a chance. And of course, you guys can check me on this. If we're able to get Lonzo without giving up someone like Tyler Hero, and
I don't think they would
of
give
course,
up Tyler Hero for Lonzo Ball.
right? if we're able to do that, you have a backcourt. There it is. You have Tyler Hero, Lonzo Ball.
Well, Ricky, to
and
that
Jimmy
point,
Butler.
that comment came in that Lonzo's shot is broken. I don't think people have watched Lonzo.
It's not.
Correct.
It's not.
That's the thing.
Right. His form is not ideal still, but it's better. And if you're shooting 38% from three on decent volume, you're a pretty good shooter at that point. I know people will mention Justice because Justice got up to that 36% type range and then went the other way. But I think
for like a month.
I would say Lonzo Ball would be the most gifted, natural point guard that's played in Miami since Jason Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. Get him in the lab with the same guy that was able to turn Dwayne Wade into a knockdown shooter. I mean, this Heat team can. There's a reason why this Heat team just churns out shooters. There's something about this coaching staff, this development team, that's seen multiple players not only become shooters, whether you're talking about James Jones, Jason Capono, all these guys. There's a reason they've won those three-point competitions. There's also a reason why they were able to get deals after that. You bring Lonzo here in addition to everything he does, that just opens up your offense in ways that we haven't seen since LeBron was here. So of course.
So we'll close here though. So if that's the case, and I'm with you, Ricky, why has Jimmy regressed so much as a shooter here? I don't. It's the one mystery to me because Nakai said it on our pod, and we had Eric Brown on, and he noticed this, calling him a one-level scorer, and he's still a scorer. There's no question, but that's part of the problem down the stretch of games, right? I mean, because we're just expecting him to get it. Thank you, Jonathan. We appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand how Jimmy has gone so far backwards as a shooter. His free throw form is fine. He's still 85% from the line. What do you got, Brady? What do you make of it?
I think where it always starts, where we talk about, you just mentioned the form, it's got to be in his legs. I think you take some shots going to the rim every possession, putting your shoulder into a guy's chest, getting to the free throw line. I don't know if it's something like that where later in the game he's coming off pick and rolls, pulling up, and he just always seems to be short at times. So I think that's kind of where it starts. And I think when you're looking at the long layoff coming in and he, started shooting better in the bubble, I don't think it was the bubble. I think it was that he had 5 months to kind of take a break and he had his legs in him. So I think that's kind of where it starts. And, I think once it comes back around, I think he'll be fine. I think when he wants to turn it on, he can. But it does come down to, we're talking about seeing him this early in the year doing the things he's doing. And that's where the worry comes in, that he may not have that same jump that he may have had last season.
I mean, we keep saying that, though. Eventually, it's going to come around. It just hasn't come around. Alonzo Bam shirt. You know what? I'll get Smoot on that. By the way, I got the no ceiling shirt here. So there you go. I do feel like the Heat have hit the ceiling. I think it's no floor, although we're 5 on the floor. So
you could have mine, too.
You could have a.
Too. I mean, we're trying. We're doing what we can here. Is he in your prize picks tonight?
Yes, I got a bunch of those going tonight. I've been doing well. It's a lot of fun, actually. I'm glad that I joined.
I like it.
I'm totally in on all the NBA stats. And the Heat people, the Heat are going to turn this around. Relax. Jesus, everybody getting all crazy, thinking that that this is over. They're going to turn this around.
Your pod came after me today, so that's it. I'm blocking like Whiteside, on Twitter today. Like I'm doing it with blocks. So I know everybody's tense. Everybody's tense right now.
Relax.
Well, it happens. I mean, here's the thing with Jimmy Butler. I think I think it's very clear that, in a weird way, I think this is a testament to how amazing a player LeBron James is. Because Jimmy Butler, when you look at the triple doubles he's been putting up, that suggests that he's carrying a great deal of weight on this team, given what everybody else is not doing. Defensively, we're not where we're supposed to be. Jimmy's having to work a lot harder just to put up the numbers he is. It's no wonder why he might be too tired to, put up shots. Because when you mention pulling up short, I'm reminded, and I guess this is like the history reference of the night, where Michael Jordan in Game 6 of the 1998 Finals was so tired that down the stretch in that fourth quarter against Utah, he was pulling up short on all of his jumpers. He was able to get one to go down with about 5.2 seconds left, but that was after, Scotty had gone out, Tony was doing his thing and all that other stuff.
Your memory is amazing. Anyway, go on.
No, but yeah, so with all of that is when someone like Jimmy, who is a great player but is not on LeBron's level, he's not built to do the things he has to be doing just for this team to have a chance. So if you, for example, bring in Lonzo Ball, then maybe Jimmy won't have to get 12 assists just for this Heat team to have a chance. Make a couple more moves here and there, and then Jimmy can just worry about maybe some rebounds, defense, and being a scorer. It's a little easier that way because that's his game.
Well, I think the point is this. We're congratulating Jimmy and Bam on filling the stat sheet and even Hero on getting rebounds. They're doing it because they don't have players at traditional positions to do it. I think that is a good point. They have to plug every hole for this team because they don't have guys to naturally do it. I don't think people are saying it might be Jimmy's wrist. I don't think it's his wrist because, again, the free throw, it's his legs, I think, to a certain degree. Although I will push back on one thing because there was this whole thing today. We're going to do a whole pod on this, Greg. There was this whole thing about, Jimmy's window and you have to win during this stretch and his prime and he's getting old. I, again, implore you, go look at Jimmy's career minutes. Get away from the narrative of how much Tibbs played him. Jimmy did not have a lot of deep playoff runs. It's not like LeBron where he plays like a whole second season. And a lot of seasons he played 60, 65 games, okay? So, he doesn't have the number of minutes at age 31 that you think he does. Trust me. Compare him to James Harden's minutes, okay? I don't want to get into that conversation. But just compare. I bet you Jimmy's played fewer minutes over the course of his career than Harden by a pretty long shot, even including the playoffs. So, I think we're overreacting to that. And all I can tell you is, Jimmy's not concerned about it. That's what I'm telling you. He thinks he's going to be good for a very long time. Okay? So we can argue whether he can do that without a jumper, but Dwayne did. So Dwayne was still pretty effective at age 36.
I am concerned about that, and here's why. I'm reminded because of that of I think it was the 2012-2013 season. Kobe Bryant, granted, had played a bunch of minutes compared to where Jimmy is right now. However, that season, Kobe had some bumps, nicks, and bruises, as well as having to carry a lot more because Dwight Howard wasn't doing well and Steve Nash was hurt. And then, unfortunately, at the end of that season, he had a good game. I think he dropped like 45 on the Blazers, and then the very next night against the Warriors, the Achilles, and it was downhill from there. Granted, Kobe was a little older and he's had more deep playoff runs, but as I mentioned earlier, you don't know when your last good day is. And while Jimmy he might have less minutes compared to other people of his age, I would venture to theorize that the content of those minutes might have required Jimmy to play a lot harder than, say, someone else at that same stage.
Well, yeah, but we can't quantify that. So
we can't quantify. I mean, he doesn't take possession. Look, Dwayne started taking possessions off. Okay, last years of his career, took a hell of a lot of defensive possessions off. Jimmy doesn't take those off. Okay, so I agree with you that I think he plays harder than Dwayne was at this same stage, okay, on a consistent basis, because Dwayne learned how to kind of measure himself and then develop the old man game and everything else. But all I'm telling people is don't panic about that, because I can tell you Jimmy and the people around him are not panicked about it, okay? They believe the organization will figure this out. He came here for a reason. They delivered a finals appearance in his first year. I'm just saying to kind of pull it back, that this bullshit, frankly, about like Pat failed Jimmy. I mean, they were in the finals first year, okay? So it's ridiculous. All right, final question. We got to go. This is longer than usual, but we'll be around post-game also. Has Kelly Olynyk, I'm noting from the comments, Dan Craig was a big loss, I think, but I think for different reasons than maybe you're speculating. But yes, I do think he was a big loss, and I don't think they've adequately replaced him. It's nothing against Karan, but there's a lot of institutional knowledge that went out the door with Dan Craig. And also, Dan had the ability to tell Spoelstra things because of their friendship, which was very close.
Listened.
Sat next to him on the bench. And I do wonder with some of these late timeouts and other things like that. Like I remember Ronnie was on the bench doing this for Spo early on. I wonder not having Dan Craig. I do think it's a factor. It's not the factor, but I do think it's a factor. But here's the question. Has Kelly Olynyk replaced Kendrick Nunn as the player that Heat fans are most tired of? I feel like that's happened over the past 2 weeks. Brady, does that feel that way to you?
Oh, definitely. seeing Kendrick Nunn, go from a guy that was getting picked on and being thrown in trades, even though he still is thrown in trades, but he's playing at a pretty consistent level. And now we're seeing that inconsistent level go for Kelly. And I think that's been for a while, but now when you're losing games, it just stands out even more. That's the same thing we're seeing with Duncan. I think things that's been going on for longer are being picked out now because they're losing. And that's what we're seeing from Kelly. Kelly's going to get you one game and then probably 3 or 4 bad ones. And, his type of game where he does impact in certain areas are not areas where you watch and, favor your eyes when you're watching the game.
Same starters as we recently had.
With the same starters? Okay, so Olynyk starts again. We'll end on that note. But by the way, yes, thank you. I did mean Abe Lincoln. This Civil War, a little different than that one, the Heat Civil War.
Yes.
A little different. We'll just leave it at that. We'll see what the trades are. Like I said, we don't have a ton of specifics on it other than the names we've given you. And now I'm telling you that I was told today by someone who would probably know, because I think their player may be involved in the transaction. I'll just leave it at that.
The intrigue.
There's something out there that we have not talked about. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have it.
None missed a layup.
I'm gonna work it. All right. No ceiling, no floor. Did he win tonight? Greg already ducked. Greg ducked. I say.
Well, we know what his prediction was. So.
Brady, they win.
Yeah, I think they should, but yeah.
Ricky already said no. He says he's got to prove
no.
it. So Alejandro, they win.
I'm not gonna say they should, but I'm gonna say they will.
Fair enough.
What?
All right, that sounds good. Go to prizepicks.com. You'll have more fun tonight. Play with the code 5. Okay, play with the code 5. You get a bonus. We get credit for it. That helps us. Oh God, Fernando, this has gotten ugly. All right, I'm out. They better.
What
win.
in the? Oh,
Saturday's
jeez. Okay.
All right, so let's stay here. We're going to listen to Eric Spoelstra, what he said before the game today, about an hour ago. And before that, we're going to check the starter for today. Like the guy said, it's the same starting lineup: Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Kelly Olynyk, and Bam Adebayo. That's going to be the starting 5 for today against the Sacramento Kings. So let's go and listen to Eric Spoelstra. Is really short. It's a really short press conference, so let's go and listen to it real quick, and then we'll go back and listen to Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson, and Bam Adebayo after last night's game. So let's go and listen to it.
Hey, Coach, we will get started with Jason Jackson.
Coach, a little bit of an abstract one, but just your overall view of Tyler and the non-obvious things that we can see about his growth in the second year. You see obviously the scoring going up and not necessarily relying on the 3 as much, but what are the things that you and the staff most appreciate about the next step that he's taking?
Well, his openness and willingness to work on becoming a complete basketball player. It's not just about his shooting, not just about his scoring or even his playmaking, but it's the impact you can have on both sides of the floor and finding different ways to consistently make winning plays. And he's been committed to that process. There's some times where it looks really good, and there's some times where he has still some growing to do as a young player. But you respect his commitment to it. He will get better, because he works at it. He's dedicated to it, and he's open to learning.
Thank you, Coach.
Next, we have Ira Winderman.
Eric, what are these last 20 hours like, whether it's the walkthrough or the travel over to Sacramento? You often tell us that one of the best things about the association is there's another one coming up and you move on. But take us through sort of these 20 hours. What's it like emotionally and having to make it like? Make the turnaround, please.
Well, as you can imagine, emotionally after the game, everybody was really disappointed, as we all should have been. We took the bus over here, last night, and then we addressed, some of the things that we could have and should have done better, last night. We didn't want to just brush it under the rug. We're trying to get better as a basketball team. I see a lot of inconsistencies around or inconsistent teams right now around the league. And we're working, to find consistency. And then we spent the rest of the walkthrough preparing, for Sacramento. I think oftentimes in this league, when you have a really tough, disappointing loss, the best thing to do is to play 24 hours later and just get back at it, in a different against a different opponent and get right back to the competition.
Because it's a back-to-back, will any player be held out? Are there any players besides the injured guys not available to you tonight?
Everybody will be available.
And with only 2 games remaining after tonight, is there still any chance Goran could join you on this trip, or where does that sort of seem now?
I don't have an update on Goran or Avery or Chris. They will not be here tonight, obviously.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Coach. Looks like that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Right, that was Eric Spoelstra earlier today. For all of you guys that are just getting here, this is going to be the starting lineup for tonight's game, the Miami Heat against the Sacramento Kings. Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Kelly Olynyk, and Bam Adebayo. So Bam Adebayo, Kelly Olynyk, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, and Kendrick Nunn. That's the starting 5 for the Miami Heat tonight. So let's listen to Bam Adebayo last night, what he said right after the game, after the Miami Heat lost 120 to 112 against the Golden State Warriors after being up by 15 after halftime, being up 10 points after entering the fourth quarter, and now losing in overtime. So let's listen to what Bam Adebayo had to say about this game. Okay, give me a second here. Here we go.
Okay, Coach, we will get started with Jason Jackson.
Spoelstra, so sorry. Go back. I'm sorry. Let me go back to it.
Hey, Bam, we'll get started once we get some hands raised.
Oh.
And we'll start with Ira Winderman.
Hey, Bam, hate to be redundant on some of this stuff, but this has almost been sort of a common theme this year, the way it's been playing out at the end. What happens to this team after building a sizable lead, playing well, doing so much of what you want to do, that we've had a bunch of games that have ended this way with large leads evaporating?
I can't really answer that, man. I ain't got the answer for you on that one. I just feel like we get complacent with our lead. And we expect they just gonna give us the game. We gotta play 48 minutes.
Does that, Bam, come down to effort or execution or just sort of game smarts at the end? Like which aspect is it going south on? Is it not running the stuff you're supposed to, not getting the stuff that would be better to run, guys not giving the effort, or maybe fatigue at the end? Like, what's the factor there that's been the common thread?
I think it's just we wait till we get in better situations. I feel like we was in a lot of low shot clock situations, and we could have avoided that.
You've now had consecutive games where teams are shorthanded, where at least on paper that was a considerable advantage to you guys, and you took advantage of it at least early on in this game. How disappointing is it when you get a situation to be in a favorable position that you sort of can't close out that favorable position?
Man, they're NBA players at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just look at them as like they're an undersized team or they don't have all they got. Everybody over there is an NBA player, just like we all over here. So we just gotta we can't keep letting this happen.
And then my last question is, they were undersized for most of the game. You were dominant on the boards. and then came the overtime, that scramble play with the multiple offensive rebounds. What happened on those decisive rebounding plays that your game-long dominance sort of was lost at those moments of truth? Thank you.
We all got to block out. We can't just watch our man just run in. We got to track our man and get the ball with 2 hands.
Thank you, man.
All right, Bam, that's it. Thank you, man.
Black lives matter, people.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Bam Adebayo after last night's game. Let's continue now and listen to Duncan Robinson. We have Duncan Robinson here coming up next. Remember, for all of you that are just getting here, some of you were asking who's the starting lineup. So yes, it's the same starting lineup, same starting 5. Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Kelly Olynyk, and Bam Adebayo. That's going to be the starting 5 for the Miami Heat tonight as well, even though they are in a 3-game losing streak after they won 4 in a row. So let's go and listen to Duncan Robinson and what he said after last night's defeat against the Warriors.
Hey, Duncan, we will get started with Ira Winderman.
Hey, Duncan. Can you sort of just give us the feeling of if there's any sense in the locker room of why this keeps happening? That this isn't the first time we've seen this. What is the common theme at the end of these games that it turns south like it did?
It's obviously not the same thing every game, but just to probably sum it up, probably just be, we're not making enough winning plays down the stretch of games. And, if you don't do that, you're not going to win. So, definitely, obviously, something we got to figure out.
Is it an effort thing? Is it not playing smart? Is it simply not making the skill plays at the end? In other words, which of those things is it? I mean, or is it a combination?
Probably a combination. I don't think it's just one thing. I don't think it's that simple. And I don't think it's really effort. I think everyone wants to win. I know everyone wants to win. But yeah, I'll probably say a combination.
When you guys were in the bubble at Disney, I mean, everything was in lockstep. You sort of hit a rhythm and everything like that. When we saw the recent 4-game winning streak, there was a thought you were getting back to that. What happened from that winning streak to these last few games? Was there something particular you got away from? Was it a step up the level of competition?
I would probably say, we had some pretty good connection over that 4-game win streak and on both sides of the ball. We were pretty connected and we were still making mistakes, but we were playing hard and limiting mistakes. I think lately, obviously, in this little 3-game skid, that hasn't been the case. We just haven't been as tight and together as we were over that stretch.
Coach always reminds us that it's difficult to win in this league no matter who the opponent is. But Monday, you have a very shorthanded team in the Clippers. Tonight, you find out just before tip-off, Draymond Green's not playing. They're without Wiseman. You had a considerable size advantage. How frustrating was it at the end just to see them get those offensive rebounds when really the one advantage you had in this game was the size advantage, and you had a considerable rebounding advantage for most of the night? Thank you, Duncan.
Obviously frustrating. The entire game, was full of frustrating stretches. So, like you said, on paper, we probably had that advantage, but obviously, they were taking advantage of it down the stretch. So, yeah, frustrating for sure.
Thanks, Duncan.
Next, we have Rachel Nichols.
Hey, Duncan. I keep hearing things where they say, oh, Duncan realizes that he's on the other team's scouting report now. He's learning what that's like. What does that actually mean, though? What do you experience out on the court by getting more attention and defensive pressure?
Just more probably, definitely teams are more tuned in. I don't get the maybe easy and rhythm ones that I would get at times last year. That I think teams are trying to be more physical and find creative ways to stop me from getting to space. But with that being said, I still think I'm getting good looks and taking good shots. That's all I'm focused on right now. And just got to continue to do that. Stay the course, take good shots, and chips will fall where they will.
What's the best sort of useful, practical advice you've gotten about dealing with that kind of new attention?
I've gotten a lot, from a lot of different directions, which I'm appreciative of. I think probably, just the best is just to be persistent, stay with it. And, it's a good thing that you're showing up on Scouting Reports. It means you're doing something right. And, it's not like it's similar to any other, form of adversity or challenge that I've faced in my career. Just gotta, stick with it. Find ways to still be effective, and I plan on doing that.
Thanks.
All right, Duncan, that's it. Thank you.
All right, that was Duncan Robinson right after that game that they lost last night against the Golden State Warriors. The record is now 11-17, 6 games under 500, and today they're facing the Sacramento Kings, who are 12-15. One of the last games away. They have to play the Lakers on Saturday night. So thank you very much for joining us. Remember, we're going to be with you guys for the post-game show. As soon as the game's over, we're going to leave the live score here in a different video so you guys can check it out as the game's going on. And thank you very much for joining us. Remember, subscribe if you haven't done so. Give it a thumbs up. Leave your comment here if you think Miami Heat should do something different than they're doing right now. You probably do have a lot of comments. And thank you very much for joining us. You can follow us at 5 Reasons Sports, and you can follow me at AlejandroVG32. Thank you very much for joining us once again. And like Daniel Villarreal Davila says, let's go Heat. Have a good one. Enjoy the game.